Artemisia afra. I'm going to make some cuttings. I have not seen seed on this plant, so it's a good subject for making cuttings. Artemisia afra is a perennial plant from Africa that has many of the same attributes as Artemisia annua, which is used in anti-cancer therapy as an anti-malarial and also for treating pandemic diseases. And when I make a cutting of a perennial plant, I look for these side shoots that are coming off of the woody stem, and I like to make what's called a heel cutting. That is, I peel it back from the stem like that, and there's a little piece of the tissue of the original woody portion that's left there at the base, and that's where the roots are going to come out when I stick it to make the rooted cutting. Then you don't want to have too much leaf material when you make a cutting, because you want to try to balance the cutting so that it runs roots instead of just sort of sitting there and photosynthesizing. So you take off these side leaves, remove those. This is all going to be underneath the soil when we make the cutting. And then you just leave, in this case, it's a very delicate cutting, and I'm going to just leave the leading tip. On more robust plants, a lot of times you'll just remove that leading tip, and that gives it more of an opportunity to resprout from this growth point here or here. So here's a setup here. The cuttings have been laid in underneath these grow lights in the greenhouse. And these were Artemisia afra cuttings that I did recently, and I'm going to demonstrate how to do one today. So first of all, I dip into my rooting solution, and what I have here is a kelp tea that is made with the water from the fish pond. So it has some fishy energy in there, and then kelp contains some hormonal ingredients which will assist in the throwing of roots. So I want to soak it in there for a good long time. If I was doing a bunch of cuttings, I might soak a bunch of cuttings for a minute or two in the hormonal water. This could also be water made from the willow tips, which also contain a lot of growth hormones. And then I want to stick that stem down into my medium, which is a sandy potting soil. And then when I stick it, I make sure that there are no air pockets around the stem. I want to firm it down in and leave the growing tip up, and then I can water it in with a little bit of the kelp tea. Always water in after you make a cutting. So then here we'll check one of the ones that I did a couple weeks ago. There's a weed growing there. Let's remove that. And the way you check it is to look at the base and see if you're getting roots coming out the bottom. And if you are, then it was a successful cutting. So that was a successful cutting. That'll grow on that way, and then I can pot it up to a larger pot later. And eventually, come spring, I can put them outside and they can perennialize for me. Real excited about Artemisia afra. Here is a flat of sages that I also did a couple of weeks ago. And these are, for the most part, doing really well. These also were tip cuttings. This is Salvia fruticosa, Greek sage or Middle Eastern sage. It's one of the main ones that's used for making sage spice. And then you can see a couple of them didn't go. those didn't work. So those can just be pulled. They're not helping anything. But something like this, that looks nice and green like that, that's beginning to throw roots. And so that's a successful cutting. I hope you have good luck with your cuttings. I enjoy it immensely. Prefer starting from seeds, but it's not always a possibility. So second best, make a cutting from the tip and root it out and move on that way.